Hi, it's me, RP. When talking about what Singapore is known for, very few would consider us when discussing an automotive industry, much less motorcycles. But as invisible as it is in the grand scheme of things, we actually do have attempts at creating such an industry. Well, sort of. As early as the 1940s, Singapore used to assemble cars under license by the likes of Mercedes-Benz and Ford, until we all but abandoned the concept of doing it around the 1980s when our neighbors in Malaysia, Thailand, and Indonesia were able to outcompete us on all fronts in the automotive industry, becoming car and motorcycle producing juggernauts in their own right. We even had, for a short period of time in the 60s, our own Grand Prix on the old Thomson Road with local drivers. But ever since then, we have failed to produce a single race driver or race rider barely anywhere near competitive levels that Indonesians and Malaysians have achieved year after year after year. Between the 80s and the turn of the millennium, Singapore had no practical automotive industry to speak of. Anything related to such were merely a mishmash of sales offices, dealerships, and workshops, mere necessities to keep the ever-increasing number of vehicles we import from overseas going on, but nothing more. We do know that in 1999, a company was incorporated as Tiger Motors Holdings, with its principal activity in the manufacture and assembly of motorcycles and parts. Not much is known about Tiger branded motorcycles like it would a Yamaha or Honda or Harley Davidson, so we can only assume Tiger Motors was set up merely to assemble motorcycles and parts on license from foreign brands like we did with cars all those years ago, and similar to what Astra Honda does in Indonesia. This company went pretty much under the radar for nearly 2 decades, eventually shuttering in 2017. Now, rewind back to 2013. One Devon Nair founded the company A-Life Air Automobiles with the intent to be the first and only local Singaporean firm to produce our own motorcycles on our island. In its 4 years of running, it received orders for 300 of its only scooter model, the A-Bike Knight, from only one customer, and managed to actually only produce 20 machines before it was wound up and liquidated by the company due to high rental and labor costs in 2017. It was inevitable. While reviewers had nothing bad to say about the A-Bike Knight, it was nothing special either, being nothing more than a mere 150cc carbureted scooter with no electronics or features to speak of that other scooter offerings had. It also cost $5,000 before taxes, when similar offerings costed only $3,000. Devon Nair, however, doesn't seem to be a man to give up. Motorcycles were obviously a crapshoot for a company without the know-how. But as of 2020, he brought the company back with a rather vague purpose to produce, and I quote, zero-emission fuel using nitrogen and oxygen gases harvested from the atmosphere. For the most part, we can obviously see why the A-Life bikes never panned out. 2017, that same year, and the first company to design and build an electric scooter is set up in Singapore, Nuovo Electric. For some reason, we are now into electric motorcycles without even getting regular motorcycles right and off the ground. Well, Nuovo came into the market with 3 scooter models, the Blitz 9, Arc 6, and Pulse 4. They never actually sold any on the consumer market, however, focusing on commercial fleets. And even then, they never really made much headway in that market. Nuovo's offerings and how they perform are thus, for the most part, a mystery to most. For the most part, as of 2021, Nuovo is still kicking and alive, if barely. Their website is years old, their email and any forms of contact are defunct. Trust me, I've tried. 2019, a pair of promising companies are founded. Scorpio Electric and Ion Mobility, both producing electric scooters in Singapore. Both attempting to tackle the actual consumer market where their predecessors did not. A far harsher and judgmental market used to quality offerings by big names like Honda and Yamaha. While neither of these companies have an actual production model as of the first quarter of 2021, what makes me hopeful is the fact that their teams involve people with actual automotive design backgrounds and working prototypes have already been showcased, not to mention the multi-million-dollar seed funds they have raised. Scorpio intends to release their first Model X sometime in 2021, while Ion is still early in its prototyping phase. Looking at these two companies today, it is hard to tell if they will succeed in bringing Singapore onto the motorcycle manufacturing world stage, or be doomed to failure just as their forebears have multiple times over. On the one hand, the electric motorcycle powerhouses like Harley-Davidson, Energica and Zero are focused heavily on the luxury, high-powered market. Both Scorpio and Ion are cornering the practical light scooter sector, a sector that so far only has one real competitor, Bajaj. On the other hand, diving into the electric segment could be an uphill battle that both companies might not survive, especially with Singapore's unnatural slow response to the adoption of EV standards. Both could see themselves bleeding red for 10, 15 years before they are able to make significant sales for the business to be viable when the inevitable electric revolution comes. And by then, who knows if the big players from overseas like the Japanese Big Four or American makers will swoop in to capture the biggest slice of the local pie. But right now, as I am reading this script, one thing is for certain. As much as it is a constant story of failure, an industry for making motorcycles exists here in Singapore. Thank you guys for watching. Links to my sources are down in the description below. If you enjoyed the video, do remember to hit the subscribe button and the bell notification icon, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.